Welcome back everyone, and how nice of a time I must admit I'm having with these videos and all of the bookbinding I have been doing recently. Thank you for joining me in erasing my old legacy from my 2016 YouTube videos. And to those of you who are new, it's better this way, trust me. Today I am bringing you a smaller, quicker video, in which I'll just be sharing with you all some paper varieties I create when binding a new book. All of these variants will be in 4 different sizes with 3 types per size. These are only a few of my paper varieties, and perhaps I'll share more of my other methods with you in the future. I begin with heavyweight drawing paper or mixed media paper sketchbooks. There are loose packages of paper available, but I prefer starting with sketchbooks so that I can strip them down as they give me materials for the other steps in the bookbinding process. I use the paper strips that connect each sheet to the spiral binding for creating handmade paper from scratch when I blend them up into paper pulp. I use the cardboard covers for embossing patterns on fronts and backs of book covers. I do not unfortunately use the metal spirals for anything other than entertaining fidget toys, as they behave kind of as springy slinkies. The sizes of the 4 variants of paper I will be creating today are 6.25 by 5 inches, 8.5 by 5.5 inches, 11 by 8.5 inches, and 12 by 9 inches. These are common paper sizes I tend to use when bookbinding, as when you fold them into signatures, their length measurement is halved. One of these sketchbook brands was admittedly new to me, since I wished to create the common printer paper size, 11 by 8.5. The tear line was a little uncooperative and left small bumps where each section tore, so I decided to skip the headache that would eventually come and just take a utility knife to the edge until they were all pared down. Over the winter, it's difficult to make handmade paper, as it tends to make quite a mess, and I like to go outside for the process. As such, I have 3 grocery bags stuffed to the literal brim full of paper scraps that are accruing and growing over the passage of winter, that are itching to be made into recycled paper by my calloused hands, and quite frankly, I miss the weather that permits it, but I guess for now, those bags shall continue to grow. Once all of my paper has been stripped bare from their respective sketchbooks, I can now begin to explain the differences in each variation I will be creating today. The first will be a simple tea stained. I don't modify the paper in any special way, I just individually stain each sheet, as soon you will see. The second, which you can see me beginning the process of here, is a tea stained paper with a deckled edge effect. A deckled edge means a rough, uncut, or even feathered effect, named for the edges that would be formed by a traditional decal papermaking machine. The means I go about this are a bit unorthodox, but I have some reasons for doing so. I have a preference towards the heavyweight drawing and mixed media paper for tea staining, as they are tough and can withstand breaking down in the tea after long periods of soaking, as well as their sturdy texture and reliability during bookbinding. The third variation is a tea stained paper with burned edges. That part is fun. I will get to it soon. When creating an artificial deckled effect, I wet my edges first by dipping them in water to speed up the ripping process. I then go around every edge and tear from top to bottom a thin and deliberately uneven strip of paper to create a rough edge. I got into the habit of stacking pages, about 3 or 4 at a time, on top of each other to speed things along a little. When creating the final product, I make sure to shuffle, rotate, and flip all the pages so there are no 2 edges next to each other that would match up. As you guessed, these torn paper edges also get added to the sheer mass of the 3 grocery bags. I would make it 4, but one more garbage-looking bag in that corner might send me into a tizzy. Now that all the paper is prepped, I can begin to tea stain. I start by brewing some tea. A no-name brand, Simple Black Tea, always does the trick for reaching a deep, rich color. I mean, I guess you could see the brand on the tea bags, but I paid them, not the other way around, so they will remain verbally nameless. I leave it to steep for far longer than you would for consumption, since I wish to extract as much of the rich, luscious juice that is possible. Once it has cooled some, I pour it into a cookie sheet and begin adding the papers for their bath time. I'm only doing a few papers per size this sitting, for demo and photography purposes, so I'm able to fit a few sizes in to begin bathing at a time. I lay my soaked sheets on 2 other cookie sheets that will both be placed in the oven at the same time. I turn the oven to about 175 degrees Fahrenheit and cook them until they begin to curl on the edges. I will add that if your oven is this low and your paper is this sturdy, it is very unlikely that you could start a small fire in case you were paranoid. I tested this on accident when I left 2 sheets of paper in the oven overnight and woke up to some perfectly cooked sheets that I was able to add to a book, and thankfully not a burned down house. Though, I really suggest testing this hypothesis in other ways, and do not under any circumstances condone idiocy as deep as mine. I let the sheets dry completely on parchment paper that I've laid on the floor, as sometimes small pooling areas of tea take much longer to dry, and it is worth it to see them do so. The next day, I gathered the completely dry sheets into a bundle. I press my tea-stained paper many times throughout the bookbinding process, as cooking warps them pretty heftily. I enjoy the warping. It gives a vintage, aged look of time to the pages, but even still, the warping is a bit extreme for bookbinding without a little pressing. I tea-stained the deckled paper next. I always deckle the edges before staining for 2 reasons. 1, it's easier to tear multiple papers at a time when they are completely factory flat, and 2, if you tear any edges after the paper has been tea-stained, you will see pristine white under the torn areas on the antique-colored pages. Though, I can perhaps see that being an interesting design choice. Now for the burned variant. Obviously, hopefully it goes without saying, but even I, with my demonstrated unintelligence, knew not to do this around anything that would quickly catch fire if something went wrong. Clear your area of anything flammable and have some water on hand if you wish to recreate the effect. I also clear out pets from anywhere nearby, open a closed window, and wear facial protection from the smoke. This will, from my first few attempts, make your eyes sting and your throat ache if you do not properly protect yourself. That being said, I slowly go around the edges of a few papers at a time and then quickly wipe them with a water-soaked paintbrush to prevent spreading. This gives them a beautiful look that can't be replicated in other ways that I've tried, and they smell delightfully smoky with little fading for as long as I've had them in my possession. Now that my 3 variants are complete, for picture taking and shop selling purposes, I will be arranging them into cute little bundles. I acquired this pretty blue yarn from my local craft store, and I'm clumping them together in sweet little clusters of 10 each. When binding a book, the number of papers I use varies, ranging from about 40 to 60 sheets. When you fold a book of 60 sheets, that becomes 120 pages, or 240 leaves. The pages that I will be selling by themselves on my Etsy shop, and what I use in this video, is heavyweight drawing paper, though with most books I use mixed media paper unless otherwise specified. I have recently gotten pretty creative with the paper for book signatures, and that will be showcased in future videos. I've been delving into natural dye colors other than tea, and some cool manual effects that I've created with other mediums. What I really enjoy with tea staining and natural paper dyes are the unique patterns that can occur on each individual sheet. I try to encourage deep layers of richness and interesting patterns by flecking tea across already dried pages, soaking for different lengths of time for some color variety, and changing the length of the oven drying time to either shorten or elongate the time that they dry in the air, during which they can sometimes continue to soak. The burned variant edges will lightly crumble for a while after burning, though this is minimized if you handle them gently. I'm a freak who collects the ash in a cute little jar, as you'll witness near the end of this video. A little more candidly here, this is really only my second video of my new content that is under production, and I have many projects in progress or already filmed and being edited, and I'm very excited to share what weird things I've been working on and trying out. To those of you who are new, warmest of welcomes, and I've already appreciated all the comments on my last video. I put a smiley face in the script here, but now I realize that isn't very communicable through just verbal narration. If you have any questions, or maybe even requests or ideas for me to try or toy around with, I'd love to hear what you think and what you'd want to see. And I'd love to chat in the comments if you've got bookbinding questions or controversial or conversational tidbits. Please not No, please. I beg you. And now, after watching my weird little wizard brain go brrr over the notion of fake spell components in a jar, a cute little aesthetic reveal of the final result. Thank you for joining me in this little video and making it this far. As I sit here writing this script and the Renaissance music playlist I'm listening to on YouTube reminds me I'm a princess dreaming in the palace garden, I am happy to report that I will return soon with more.